This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here today on an afternoon in Ontario, Canada, speaking with Chief Viticulturalist Oliver Powrie from Via Maria Estate, New Zealand. And it's actually your 7 a.m. in the morning. How are you today, Oliver?
I'm great, thanks, Jamie. I've got my cup of tea here.
As I have my glass of wine, of course. I'm kind of envious of your tea. I didn't have tea this morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are here today to speak about Vidal Estate. I've been calling it Vidal Estate. We have a grape up here called Vidal, so I assumed it was Vidal, but Vidal Estate, based in
That's it.
Hawke's Bay in the North Island of New Zealand. Now, we are all currently in the middle of this ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. How did the pandemic impact the vintage that you just brought in?
Yeah, sure, Jamie. I think just remembering about it now, it's it was a really busy time because the lockdown for us actually happened right on the grape harvest. So,
Yeah.
as you know, the grape harvest is a busy time at the best of times, and lots of different things happening and keeping an eye on the weather. But yeah, so we went into lockdown around the 23rd of March, which is smack bang in the middle of our harvest here. So it was a really interesting time. I think compared to different parts of the world, I guess we were in a position where the government actually decided quite early to lock down. But fortunately for us, the New Zealand wine industry was given the privilege of continuing to harvest our grapes and make the wine, and was defined as an essential business within New Zealand. So yeah, all of a sudden we were, well, actually, just to give you a bit of an idea, in the lead up to that decision for the government, there was a lot of uncertainty for us. So we'd got to the harvest time, our vineyards were ready to be harvested, but we didn't actually know whether the government would let us pick the grapes. And it was on that evening of the 23rd that they announced that we could. So there was a huge amount of relief to know that we could actually continue harvesting.
I can only imagine. It must have been like the kind of precipice edge of that harvest there. Yeah, that must have been nail biting for sure.
Yeah.
And how did the lockdown affect you personally?
So one of the big changes for me is that harvest for us is really the time that viticulturists and winemakers really come together to work on the best decisions in the vineyard in terms of when to harvest and how to harvest those grapes. This year we were really having to work in our own, we call them bubbles. We worked in isolation from each other.
Right.
So we would actually, I would be getting out to the vineyards a lot still, but not with Nick, the winemaker, so much by my side to have a look. But sometimes we'd compare notes, so we'd be at the vineyards at different times. And just a lot more phone calls, I guess, than that direct contact.
Right.
But that went right through the harvest team. So we, even within our teams of hand pickers and machine harvest crews, we really limited any contact between people because we were really worried that if one person was to get sick within the team, then we would have to shut down a whole part of it. And then, so we limited contact, and we pretty much said that nobody from viticulture should have any interaction with the winemaking team in case there was somebody sick in either team. And I was going to say, we also did that between the islands as well. So we limited travel between the North Island and the South Island completely, because our biggest fear was that if the Marlborough team had somebody sick in the winery and they had to all go into quarantine, then we would actually, our Hawke's Bay team would have to send a crew down to Marlborough to look after the winery. So we had all these different ideas about how we might manage if the COVID situation got worse.
But thankfully it didn't. Your government seemed to have done a bang-up job containing the virus, for sure.
Yeah, sure. I think we feel very lucky, and it feels very surreal to be in a situation here where there hasn't been a transmission of COVID within the community for over 100 days now.
Wow.
And you know, the big risk at the moment, obviously, is people coming back to New Zealand. There's thousands of New Zealanders coming back every day at the moment, and so they're being put into quarantine for 14 days. But there are cases of COVID, obviously, in those quarantine facilities. So while we're all sort of operating, gone back to normal life in a way, then there's this other situation of the virus coming into the country. But hopefully, we're all hoping that it is well controlled there.
Now, how has this lockdown impacted things such as sales for your company?
Yeah, sales, it's quite remarkable, and it is quite variable by market and also outlets, but the overall, the sales currently are well above budget and continuing to surprise us with how well they're going. And I think partly that we don't seem to have had any interruption in our supply chain. We've already released our 2020 Sauvignon Blanc to the market, so that's been exported already. So on the one side, we're seeing a lot of wine sales, particularly through grocery and the fast-moving retail, but we have been affected a lot, and I guess in terms of international markets, where a lot of the fine wine retail and on-premise type retail has been affected dramatically, and so some of our products have been affected more than others. But overall, sales are really strong. And the same for New Zealand, actually, is the domestic market seem to have a high capacity for drinking wine at the moment, which is good.
I can imagine, yeah. We've mentioned earlier about the impact of the pandemic upon your most recent harvest, but we've not really spoken about where New Zealand is today. Is life almost back to normal, and what is different?
Yeah, sure. I think in a strange way, it has returned to normal. There's been a huge impact on the tourism industry of New Zealand. We rely a lot on international tourists. So that's been devastating for some parts of New Zealand, particularly places like Queenstown, which is a town that's completely built on tourism. But yeah, what's been amazing is that locals within New Zealand have really got behind the concept of supporting local. And of course, we can't fly anywhere at the moment either. So everyone's getting out and getting around New Zealand. So Queenstown, I think, in the holiday periods has been busier than ever, and the skiing at the moment is magnificent. So there's more people up on the mountain than there was last year, sort of pre-COVID. So it's, yeah, in a funny sense, it's very much gone back to normal. I think we're just hoping that the impact on the economy is not too great. But at this stage, hospitality's lit up again, and the restaurants are full of people out dining, and so it's quite surreal to compare that with other parts of the world.
Now, are there any social distancing measures in place within these hospitality locations, whether they be restaurants or bars, cafes, and the like?
No, it's pretty much gone back to normal, which
Wow.
it's amazing. So, there's certainly hand sanitizer available, and we have a contact tracing app that people are encouraged to use when they go in and out of restaurants. But in terms of tables being close to each other, it's all gone back to normal, and so the hospitality industry is in an enviable position where all of a sudden they've got lots of people wanting to go out, and there's no real restrictions on them.
That's amazing. It's very encouraging to hear that. Someone was telling me the other day that nightclubs were open in New Zealand again. Is this true?
Probably is, yeah. I haven't been to one lately, but there's there's no, I mean, there is literally no restrictions on bars or imagine nightclubs as well. So it's it's an amazing position to be in.
On a closing note, what is the most positive aspect of the entire pandemic that has that you have experienced throughout this time, throughout lockdown and the like?
Yeah, sure. I think an incredible experience was when lockdown was announced. On that same day, the company decided to get mobile homes onto both of our key winery sites in Hawke's Bay. So we had we had 100 camper vans drive down from Auckland and arrive at about 30 in Hawke's Bay and 70 of them in Marlborough. And what that meant is that all of our winery staff and some of our viticulture staff were basically isolated to the winery site. And we had chefs arrive from Auckland because we had to close a restaurant in Auckland. We had whole entertainment area within the winery. There was lots of activities. We're working 24 hours a day, but at the same time, it created this incredible bubble within the winery. So as you can imagine, we've got people from all over the world, Spain, France, Croatia, all over, and all of a sudden, everybody was living on one site in caravans, and with some, there were some really tough parts to that because people had to be separated from their families in some cases, and people were uncertain. But at the same time, it created this amazing camaraderie and energy, and people just felt so well cared for as well during a time when they felt nervous. So it allowed us to really focus on the job, but I think no one will forget the 2020 harvest for that reason. Yeah.
Oliver, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully I'll get a chance to come over and visit once again. It's been 10 years now.
Yeah, definitely, Jamie, and it's been great talking to you. And we are excited about the whole concept of New Zealand being open to the world again. We just have to wait and see when that is.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's right.
Take care. Have a great day, and thank you so much for your time.
Good one. Thanks, Jamie. See you.